You're listening to the iRacers Lounge podcast, where we discuss everything iRacing in a casual setting. Enjoy. Welcome to the iRacers Lounge. I'm your host, Mike Ellis. iRacers Lounge is a podcast for the iRacer, where we talk all things iRacing in a casual setting. Joining me are the usual characters, Jason Daniels and Tony Groves. Hey, guys.
Good evening.
Hello.
All right. Off week this week. No NASCAR racing, or NIS anyway. The Darlington's coming up. Let's talk a little bit about the upcoming Darlington, and then we'll talk about what we raced here in our off week. I did some testing last night, a couple sets. I actually preferred the fixed over the other set I had. It wasn't too bad. David Flowers was with me, and he was learning the groove and trying to figure it out and really struggling. It's hard for a new driver. So what are you guys thinking about Darlington coming up?
I watched the VRS video from Ray Alfala today. I've been using those they're a great tutorial, especially if you've never seen the track before. Really showing you how you can go middle, and there's kind of like a double apex through turn 1 and 2, and then turn 3 and 4, you're just hugging the wall, and that the shadow from the wall is actually making a difference on the temperature in your grip. So I've been using those pretty much every week. From Ray Alfala does the A car, and then you'll get Brian Blackford will usually do the C trucks and the K&N car for D class. Ray usually does the B Xfinity cars as well. But I think those are really great tutorials. Ray even mentions a little about the setup, just a couple things that he would change to make the setup a little better from the fixed. And he said that he thought it was pretty snug and pretty close to what he'd end up running in the peak.
Yep. Yeah, I was telling David what I knew about running the line there. I mean, 1 and 2, when you go into 1, you got to throw that thing down below the dotted line. Like, get at least the lefts down on the apron, if not all 4 tires. And then the car floats up into the banking once you do that. And you can really stay in the throttle pretty much. And I think the minimum speed through 1 and 2, I was telling him, was 170 on new tires for me anyway. But again, just like you said, it's a double apex. I always find myself right in the middle of 1 and 2, almost maybe lifting just a little bit or dragging the brake just to reset to set up for the second apex to come out of 2, because that back stretch wall, it almost sticks out. I mean, it is so hard not to hit it.
I mean, this is definitely one of your classic NASCAR tracks, and a lot of people, there's a lot of rubbing, there's a lot of wall scraping, and usually it ends up pretty clean when you watch the big boys do it, but I don't have too much trust in my lower split guys, so I'm sure we'll see plenty of spinning and plenty of bumping.
Well, that's what I was telling Flowers. I go, look, if you could just find a line here where you're not wrecking, you're going to come out top 5, because in your split, nobody's going to survive. I mean, it's hard to get around here without wrecking. And so I ran quite a few laps yesterday, and I can get around here without wrecking. I'm not fast, but I'm certainly not, I'm not horrible. We'll see how it goes. I'm ready for it, though. I had a good off week, so bring Darlington on. Tony, I know you're sitting out because you don't have this track yet, but this is probably a good one to sit out. This is probably one of the hardest tracks on the circuit.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm kind of bummed that I don't have this track. I was actually really looking forward to this track just because of that challenge. I mean, it's fun. It's an iconic race, and I want to go out there and grab my stripe, even if it's just once. But alas, I'll have to play Tifosi cheerleader this week again, and I'll hit it next year.
Nice. Well, let's talk. What else did we do on the off week? I did a few things, so I'll bring up. Hosted Talladega. Somebody was putting up Gen 5 car, the Gen 5A car, which has no restrictor plate. on Talladega and Daytona, and no, I think it was just Talladega. But boy, I was some awesome fun. I can't believe how much fun that is in that particular setup, because you have to lift going into the corners, or you're going to put it in the wall. I mean, you cannot flat foot it like you traditionally can in a restrictor plate car. You cannot do that. And so I found myself on the bottom a lot, and the guys that were on the top, they would like float it into the corner, and they didn't slow down enough, and they'd be into the wall. And so half the field would go out that way just by over driving the corners and taking themselves out. But you had to be real careful. But boy, and then the draft was crazy. You know, you'd get up to 240 or so at the end of the straight, but the speeds were incredible.
You remove the restrictor plate, and it's a whole different ballpark out there.
Yeah, I think people forgot about at least I did, forgot about this particular combination of car and track. And boy, it is awesome fun. So don't, if you have any options of running that, check it out. I think it was Mitchell Reeves, uh, not Mitchell Reeves. It was, what's that one guy that always hosts a session every 30 minutes for the last 2 years? Anyway, I forget his name, but he's always got a hosted session up. He like pre-purchased, I don't know how many. He's been doing it for about 2 years now.
For the most part, I haven't actually dabbled into hosted because I don't trust myself enough. So that's why I still do official. But I think I will be getting into possibly looking at a league and possibly doing more hosted in the near future.
It was like one of those things where it's just a random room. I wasn't invited or anything. I just jump in it, you know.
Spur of the moment, that's the best kind of race.
All right, I got the name here. I just looked it up. It's Mitchell Qualls is the guy. And if you've ever been on the hosted page, guys, you've seen the name Mitchell Qualls. He's the guy who literally hosts a session. Like I said, it's every hour or every half hour or something for like the last 2 years, like literally 24 hours a day situation. I wonder how he affords it. He must be rich or something.
Or has the hookup.
Right. All right, next.
Never underestimate the hookup.
Maybe he does, but that's crazy. I mean, he's in some of the races, but he's not obviously not in all of them, but he still hosts them, so that's crazy. I also did some pickup cup racing at Charlotte and actually got a win. And put up a video of me doing the donuts at the front stretch of Charlotte in the truck after taking a win there. Had a good qualifying. I started the top 5, I think, got up to 3rd. The top 2 were all over each other. I mean, just like glued next to each other. And sure enough, they eventually touched through the front straight and took each other out and gave me the lead, and that was that, and I won it. But it was kind of nice to get the blood boiling a little bit and get a win. So I'm happy that I got one. So let's hear what you guys did this week. What'd you race?
I kind of did like you there, bit of carb cup, and sounds like I had a very similar type race as to you did in the pickup cup, and except I was the guy spinning out. I was fighting for the lead last lap, and just before the finish line, he came down for the block, and well, we got into her. It was still a fun finish. It was a fun race. The top 5 or 6 guys, like we were just nose to tail the whole time, and real tight, real close. It was a lot of fun. Other than that, I did a bunch of dirt practicing, getting better. I'm able to string about 10 laps together without crashing into the wall. So big thumbs up for that.
Yeah, those unofficial races are fun because there's no SR, there's no IR to worry about. It's just a fun race. And I think that takes that gives you a different perspective, I think, going into these. Lots of times, though, they end up being wreck fest. But if you can survive that part, they're usually pretty fun.
I ended up getting some Mazda road races in, and I was able to really tell that I was able to control the car. When I first started iRacing, I kind of did a little oval, did a little road, and I was just plumb awful at road. But I think the experience that I've gotten with the oval cars, being able to control it a little more, kind of being able to feather the throttle, I found doing it was Okayama and the rookie Mazdas, and I got around that track almost no problem whatsoever. There was one turn that was getting me that I kept getting a 1x off track, but I found that just my oval experience is helping me control the road cars more. So I may start mixing it up a little more, doing a little road for the week also. But if I can get to a 3.0 rating, I can actually sneak up a license class here in week 12, week 13. So that's definitely going to be one of my goals outside the NIS this week.
Well, yeah, no incidents means your license will go up because your SR will go up easily if you don't have any, off tracks, or not very many anyway. So, yeah, have at it, man. That's a tough thing to do.
I was by no means competitive for racing wise, but get a little SR. I don't really want to race the Mazdas long term. I just need to get the SR so I can maybe get into the GT3 cars and be able to do the 24-hour races and stuff. So that would be nice to mess around with on NIS off weeks and whatnot.
Yeah, a long time ago, I got my road up to the A license because, just like you said, I just wanted to get it up there, and you just got to go out and run clean races. You can't, don't worry about your IR, don't worry about where you finish, but if you can just not have any incidents, that's really the ticket there. So, all right, cool. And you also raced in a special event, or you at least started it, right?
Yeah, the Fight Like a Girl 200 was this Saturday. I know I've been talking about that in Final Thoughts for a few weeks. They ended up getting 32 racers out to support Brad and Melissa. Melissa gave a very nice thank you during qualifying while we were waiting for the starts. And the tire changer for the 07 team, the Xfinity team that was giving away the hot passes, he was actually one of the racers in the race as well. So a lot of great words from Brad, a lot of great words from Frank, Melissa, Doug George, and Race Spot did an outstanding job promoting it. I thought it was very appropriate that they covered what they need to cover race-wise and promoted the real cause that we were there for Saturday night as well. Justin Laird ended up finishing 22nd. I ended up leaving the race early. The power started flickering at my house, but it didn't go out. And the first time I was like, okay, we're fine. The second time I was like, I'm going to wreck someone. So I just parked it in the pits, and about 5 minutes later, the power did go out at my house. So I wasn't able to finish officially. I got a 31st. But just kind of a unfortunate. I was really looking forward to the race, but I was also really, really outclassed. When you get open setup in some of those peak guys, it's just amazing to see how they solve the puzzle that open setups are. And at the end of the day, that's what it really feels like. It's a puzzle. It's a complex puzzle. And some of them were turning 28 eights at Homestead and basically never lifting. No brake and not much lift. They were whipping around that track like nobody's business. And that's what the good guys do. So it was awesome to watch. I'm glad I was able to be a part of it. I'm unhappy I wasn't able to finish, but still a great cause I was able to be a part of.
It's kind of humbling to be in the same race with people like that when they're like aliens out there, going so much faster.
Yeah, and you get excited that you ran a 30.2, and then you look at everyone's times and go, whoa, I'm dead last. Like, I ran a 31 in practice, I improved 0.75, and I'm still getting smoked.
Yep. Well, I heard they raised $800 for the cause, and Chuck Sweeting, I think, was the winner, and so he won the hot tickets, hot passes for the Xfinity race. So, congrats to everybody involved. Sounds like a good one. I completely missed it. By the time I got home from work, it was over. So.
It was also a quick race because when you got guys that are that good and know what they're doing, not too many cautions. That thing, start to finish, Hour 20 for 134 laps.
Yep. All right, cool. Next is Peak is back tonight. We're recording this on a Tuesday night. It'll be on tonight at 9 p.m. at Darlington, and this is the playoffs. This is the first event of the playoffs. Now, it would have been impressive for me if they would actually publish something that somewhere today, that said, what is this playoffs thing that they're doing in the Peak series? I have no idea what it means when they say the playoffs. Is there are they resetting the points? Is there somebody with more points than the other? Kind of like in real NASCAR, with Martin Truex, has all the bonus points. Or what is the situation? Are there different rounds? And I have no idea.
So I remember seeing a graphic earlier today. I don't remember where I saw it. I was looking for it before the show. But the next three races, round 13, 14, 15, is the first round of basically the chase or the playoffs. And then round 16 is Homestead, and that is the final race. So I believe they have cut down to 8 at this point, and then they'll do a playoff progression just like NASCAR, but it's going from 8 to 4 at Homestead. So the top 4 in the next 3 races, and I believe a win gets you into the final. And that will be the final at Homestead, round 16 for all the marbles.
Yeah. And I'll probably turn this on tonight and watch it and see what happens. It'll be interesting for sure. So it's always been a good to watch the Peak race. So
the stakes will be much higher, and I'll also keep an eye on the post-race forum thread, because if it's anything like I've seen the past couple of weeks, it may be a pretty entertaining one.
Yep. All right, let's get into other topics. Tony, what do you got?
Well, we got another poll. The most common reason for having a race ruined. This is kind of an interesting poll, and there was 5 different top options to choose from. Got net coded, got disconnected, shot self in the foot, racing incident, got taken out. And the top 2 were shot self in the foot and got taken out, 31% and 39% respectively. I found those pretty interesting, and kind of scrolling through the topics and stuff. And a lot of people quick to point out how they've shot themselves in the foot. I mean, we've all done it. We've all been there. And that I think that one usually hurts the most, even more than getting taken out by somebody else.
Oh, yeah. If it's someone else's fault, you just wipe your hands of it and say, hey, what could I have done, But, yeah, when you do it yourself. Now, when I first looked at this poll earlier in the week, shot self in the foot was actually leading, and got taken out was way far back. But since then, a lot more people have voted. We have 483 votes on this poll, and got taken out, took the top spot by over 8% over the shot self in the foot. So some people came in here and really voted on the got taken out, and apparently that's a problem for people as the most common reason for having a race ruined.
I also like that taken out is in quotes there, because we all know sometimes when you get taken out, you actually shot yourself in the foot. So there's probably some bleed over there.
Yeah, in reality, that probably should be a bunch of votes for racing incidents, which is probably more realistic. Like maybe you didn't give the guy enough room, So what, did you really get taken out? Or was it a racing incident or what?
Yeah, I don't know how many times that I've been racing and I get wrecked and I'm like, oh, what's this guy doing? He just totally took me out. And I watch the replay. I'm like, I'm an idiot. That was all me.
All right, next topic. David Tucker put a little gem in one of the forum posts when somebody asked, hey, how much distance do I need from my eyeball to my monitor? What should the minimum be is what was the question. And David wrote, a monitor is no different than a book. How close can you comfortably hold a book and read without eye strain? My personal rule of thumb is that you should be able to easily touch the monitors when seated properly, without leaning forward. And I think that is a good rule of thumb. If you can't reach them when you hold out your hand, you're sitting too far back.
I'm only about a foot too far back right now. That's not a problem, right?
Well, on my cockpit, I have a seat that moves forward and backwards. It has a slider. And right now I'm sitting back because I'm not racing, but when I race, I actually pull the seat all the way forward. Even when I'm sitting back, if with the seat all the way back and I stick my hand out, I can barely touch the center monitor. So when I pull the seat up, I can easily touch it. So check it out, guys. Maybe you're sitting too far back. All right, what's up next?
Well, there was a birthday last week, and this one is really cool. Monty Smith turned 90, and he's still iRacing. I gotta believe he's got to be the oldest, and he's still going at it. They say he doesn't do a lot of official stuff, mostly hosted and league racing, but he's still winning races. That's pretty darn cool,
That is awesome. I always hope that I'll be 90 years old and still iRacing, and but here's somebody actually doing it. That's so cool.
Post also talks about how he used to race Speedway in the 40s. So he was a real life racer way before there were any computer simulations, and did some of the console games like Need for Speed, TOCA Touring Cars, Colin McRae Rally, and then came to iRacing when it was released. So he has had racing in his blood, both real world and simulated, for a long time.
40s. I mean, think about how long ago that was. That's 77 years ago. That is awesome. Anyway, Paul Smith, he posted about his dad, Monty Smith. So happy birthday to him. Next topic. We got an announcement about, actually it was a video introducing the UMP modified car at Lanier's National Speedway with dirt on it. And iRacing put together a nice video here about it, and shows this new car. We were talking a little bit before the show about this car and exactly what is it, and so we got a UMP modified. We talked about there's an SK modified. I have no idea what these abbreviations stand for, but it looks pretty cool. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't know anything about the car. In fact, I'd never even heard of it until just recently. But taking a look at it, looks cool. Eventually, when I can put a few more laps around a track without going off, I'm gonna start getting into it a little bit more and buying some of these cars, and most likely we'll pick this one up as well.
What I'm curious about is where does this come in, kind of in the hierarchy of the dirt cars. So obviously the sprint cars, the winged sprint cars, are a very different feel and different handling than like the late model and super late model and the limited late model. So this is a very different look where it's kind of like almost an open cab that you can see all the way through from the back, and just some paneling on the left and right. How does that affect aero? How does that affect handling? I'm just kind of curious where that falls in. Was there a gap in the cars that we had that this fills, or is this another car to be another car?
Yeah, I don't know enough about dirt racing to know the answer to that, but I think it must fill a gap that we had that obviously we didn't realize. But it's cool. They're still working on dirt, and Lanier. Now this is a free track, I believe, that everybody has, the asphalt version. So I do believe that the dirt version will also be free.
That is correct.
Yeah, and that'll be out in this next build, which we'll talk about that a little bit today. One more tidbit on this, Kevin Iannarelli, that's hard to say, he did post up on Twitter a thank you to Mike McKinney for allowing us to scan his car. Mike also provided us tons of data for the build of this car. Now, Mike McKinney is a driver of one of these UMP modifieds. And when you check out his Twitter profile, it has pictures of the UMP and him in Victory Lane and so forth. So, they're working with real teams, real drivers, real cars to come up with this iRacing product. It's pretty cool. All right, what's next?
Well, if you've ever wanted to experience some laps around a racetrack, now might be the time to do it. The Rusty Wallace Racing Experience is partnered with iRacing, and you get 60% off the driving experience and 3 free month membership to iRacing. I've not done it, but he does come to my local track, and it's just a small 1/8 mile track, but one of these days I'm going to get my butt out there, and I don't need the 3 free months, but the 60% off if it's available in my area. I think I might be doing it.
Pretty cool. And the website is racewithrusty.com. And they have a schedule there with pricing. Speedway tracks, short tracks, bull ring tracks, and looks pretty cool. Now, I've actually went to Daytona once, and Richard Petty Experience was there by accident, or they were already there. I didn't know they were going to be there. So I went there for a tour during the week, and they were there, and I ended up buying a 3-lap ride for $120 with a real driver, and I sat in the passenger side. It was a NASCAR, like an Xfinity style car. It could have been an old Cup car, I'm not certain. But I had to put on a fire suit and a helmet and all that, and got to go around the track at speed. And it was the coolest experience ever. I loved it, and I certainly recommend it to anybody who has an opportunity to do it. It'll give you such a different perspective of what happens out there.
There's a lot of different similar products in the marketplace. You said Richard Petty, there's the Rusty Wallace. I believe Dale Jr. also has a racing experience. But if you got a NASCAR track in your area, I would definitely check with them. Most of them are doing these nowadays at least once a month.
Yeah, it scared me crapless, to say it nicely. We were going down the backstretch, like 185, and all of a sudden I see the wall of asphalt that kind of went off to the left, and it looks like a wall when you're approaching it. And I'm like, oh my God, he's not slowing down. We're going to like crash. That was the feeling I had inside. And then he kind of drove up onto this wall of asphalt. That's the banking of Daytona. And that car just sank into the asphalt, and it pushed you down into the seat with all the G-forces. And you threw your head to the right, and you couldn't hold your neck straight. And boy, it was just hang on and hold your breath.
Yeah, Daytona is a special track. I did a tour there, and that is a really steep bank in those corners. It's a lot steeper than it looks on TV.
Yep. All right, next up, World of Outlaws tweeted about the dirt on Lanier, and they have a little video specifically about Dirt Lanier National Speedway, as they call it. And iRacing got a nice 2-minute video here showing basically shots of the track, and then they show actually some live footage from real racers going around the track as well, so you can kind of get a perspective.
March of 85, it's a classic racing.
Yep. And interesting though, but a nice video for sure. So pretty cool that iRacing is still promoting these new content and stuff, even though they're not selling it. All right, what's next?
Well, looks like we got another iRacer about to hit the real world. There's a new show looking to take gaming stars and put them in real world situations, virtual to reality. They took Alex Bergeron. He races World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series, and he's won there a few times. I'm not familiar with him, but it sounds like he's making quite the name for himself. So they took him from his hometown in Drummondville, Quebec, and flew him out to Edmonton to test out a sprint car at the Castrol Raceway. The crew chief Robert Lavalley said he was expecting him to be a lot more out of control, but he did very well and surprised him. Now he hasn't had a race yet. That's coming up on a Friday night in a qualifier for Saturday's Express Cup at Castrol Raceway. So here's hoping we'll see what he can do, and we got another one taking the step from the simulation to real life.
Yeah, this kid's talented. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's a peak driver, or if not, he's a pro or soon to be pro. But he's quick, and I've seen him win a lot of iRacing races, especially on dirt. He's real young, and he got an opportunity to get in a real race car, and that's pretty cool. Now, I've been following the brainchild of this venture, Josh. His name is Josh Hamilton, and he has a big presence on Facebook in a lot of the iRacing groups about his show that's called Virtual to Reality. And he's been working on this for a long time, and I've never talked about it on the podcast because I've always saw it and thought, I don't think this is going to work. You know, when he puts out these articles talking about what he's trying to accomplish, and hey, you know, he was doing all these brainstorming stuff last year where he would put up something on Facebook that said, you know, hey, who would be interested in, you know, pitching in, you know, X amount of dollars for an opportunity to get into a race car. And it was kind of like he was trying to work up a crowdfunding kind of situation where if you could get a bunch of people to crowdfund, then one guy would win it and then he would get to go drive a real race car. And so that's what he was trying to put together. And that has morphed into what this is today, which is some kind of show. Now, I don't know if they have it on TV or what. And I still don't know how it's funded. You know, somebody had to pay for Alex Bergeron to fly, you know, to this track, to put him in a fire suit, to put him with a real team, to put him on a track to do laps. And now he's going to be in a race. So, this, you know, a team had to put up a car or someone had to get out of a car so he could get in it. So someone is paying for it. And I'm still trying to follow the money and figure out how this works. But kudos to Josh Hamilton. I mean, dude, you pulled it off finally. You finally got an iRacer in a real race car, which he's been trying to do for a long time. So congratulations. I can't wait to see where it goes.
And not only that, I like that a lot of iRacers that we read in these situations are not making fools of themselves. I mean, everyone wants to call it a video gamer wrecks a $500,000 sprint car, and it's just not happening. It's like they keep wanting it to happen. It still doesn't happen. They even said in the article they expected him to be a lot more reckless, and he wasn't. I think that goes the iRacing players and the drivers that we have on this service take this a whole lot more seriously than a lot of people think.
Yep.
Well, as well as that, iRacing is you know, giving us that platform to be able to learn how to race like that. I mean, if you got a crappy simulator, you're not going to get the skills that you need to transfer over.
Well, I don't know about that. You look at Ty Majeski. He had a G25 and a laptop, and that's how he got his 10,000 I rating. I mean, he had a tiny, you know, one screen, nothing special at all, and he did really good.
Oh, yes. No, I'm not meaning the equipment you use to run the simulation. I was talking about the simulation itself.
Oh, right.
It's just so, so true to life as much as it can be at this point.
Oh, yeah. Well, congrats to Josh and Alex, and it's neat. I think Alex was the perfect choice for this adventure. So yeah, I'm excited to see how it goes, and maybe we'll get Josh on the program sometime and talk to him about it, because I really want to understand how it actually works. How did he get it funded and stuff like that. From what I can see, they don't have a sponsor or anything. So yeah, I don't know what the situation is. So more to come on that one. Next is a nice video that iRacing put out again about the new upcoming Ferrari 488 GT3 car. We're going to see this real soon. It will be featured in the next schedule of Season 4 in the Blank Pane GT series, as well as the IMSA online series as well.
The sounds are really great. The look is really great. It's another fine made car by iRacing that they're bringing out. But it also brings something that's kind of curious to me. So we had the 488 announced this week, and we had the UMP modified announced this week, and they're live next week. I wonder if there's been kind of a change in what iRacing described, where before they were announcing cars way ahead of time, and then it kind of became the hashtag soon becomes hashtag never. Where now they're like holding off on announcing until they know it's done, they know it's going to be live. We didn't hear a peep about this GT3 car until this week, and now it's going to be live and in 2 series in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think I don't think it's they're doing it intentionally. I think it's when the licensing gets done. When the check clears and everything, legally is wrapped up with a nice little bow. That's probably when they announce it, and probably not a moment before that.
Maybe they were announcing too soon in the past, so they're just changing their announcement.
Yeah, could be. All right, what's next?
Well, another Twitter post from Steve Myers talking about Blank Pane and the IMSA series. For everybody looking for more cars, well, great news. You have it. 6 cars next season. So all those that race in that series, I'm sure you guys are all going to be happy campers.
Yep, yeah.
And that 6th car is the Ferrari 488.
There you go. Well, I think there's enough GT3 cars. There's more than 6, right? So, yeah, there'll be a choice. I don't know how many exactly they are, but it's interesting. Anyway, this confirms which series is being affected by the 6 car from 5 to 6. So it's Blank Pane and IMSA. Next up, Kyle Putz was at Road America for the Xfinity race, and guess what he saw in the parking lot? He saw the iRacing scanner van, and he posted up on Facebook a picture of it and said, "Hey, iRacing, what you doing here?" I don't think we figured it out why they were there.
Peekaboo, we see you.
A rescan of Road America? I don't think it's needed. But yeah, so anyway, you never know where you'll see iRacing. That's pretty cool. See him at the track. Looks like he just saw the van. He didn't run into anybody particularly. All right, what's next?
Yeah, got some more good news for all the drivers doing the Camel GT series. They've moved from 30-minute races to 45-minute races, and that was because the majority of the community wanted those longer races. So iRacing gave them to you. They've also released the Season 4 schedule.
Yep, 30 minutes to 45 minutes. So it's not as much of a sprint race, but I imagine it's probably still a sprint race. Now, I don't think that would be a fuel stop, would it?
It might be because I see on this schedule, especially week 7, it talks about the Audi only having 75% fuel. So it may be bumping it to require a fuel stop. If they had about 35 minutes worth of fuel, then this would make it require a stop.
Yeah. Which always is fun when races are long enough to require a stop, because then that introduces the opportunity for strategy.
And another sign of them listening to the community. This really is, they're making this for us. The people that raced the Camel GT series, they asked for this. What's the harm in giving the community what they want? If somebody wanted to race the Camel GT series and wanted it because it was a 30-minute race, I don't think this would run them off. 15 minutes doesn't seem like a real long time to me, says the person running 2-hour NASCAR races.
Right. And sometimes 4 hour if you have the long ones. But all right, next up, we have some more polls in the forums. 2 different ones this time, and the question is, which series would you run if more people participated? And the first poll is about oval series specifically, and the answers to choose from were the late models, the Silver Crown Cup, the Sprint Car Cup, Super Late Model, the Tour Modified, or the SK Modifieds. And we got 83 votes so far. The winner at this point, the Super Late Models at 25%, and then the Modifieds at 23%. Silver Crown, 20%. Sprint Car, 13%. I voted Sprint Car. I love that car for pavement.
Yeah, I don't have any of these cars, nor do I really know a whole lot about each of the cars. Maybe I need to start exploring my my options there for off weeks like we just had.
Well, I tell you what, a lot of these cars, the reason these are listed on this particular poll is because there is no participation. If you went and bought one of these cars, you wouldn't have a place to race it because nobody runs them.
I know the late model and super late models, there's actually a few leagues that are pretty well filled with those. When I was getting into D class and trying to decide if I was going to do the K&N car or the late or super late, that's one of the things I looked at was participation and also carryover. The K&N cars runs at a lot of the same tracks that the trucks and the NIS does, where the super late and the late models run some of the older tracks that aren't on the NASCAR circuit anymore, and some of the shorter tracks. And it's a different style of racing that I know some people enjoy. I was more along the budget route, so I was looking for things that would carry over and be useful. So that's why I went the K&N route.
Right. Yeah, and I was really speaking about the Silver Crown and Sprint Car specifically. Those, I mean, there's the races for those that are up there, but nobody runs them, and that's what I was trying to say. And so, if participation was high in those, I would be all over it. They're so fun. That Sprint Car has 1 gear, and it's so fun to try to bring that thing up to speed. But yeah, it's kind of a neat poll, and it's kind of interesting to see the results. Now, the same guy put up a different poll on a different forum for the same question, except this time road car. What series / car would you run if there was more participation on the road side? So I'm going to read off these real quick. Classic Lotus GP 79, Lotus 49, IMSA Corvette C7 DP, IndyCar, Kia Optima, Formula One, Mustang, Jetta, V8 Supercar, Audi, Nissan, Camel, and Proto 4GT, and Radical SR8. And the winner was the Radical, surprisingly 20%, and then V8 Supercar at 10%. IndyCar was 13% in second.
The V8 supercars, they have a lot of action kind of in the Australian time zone, which is like the most awkward for people in the States. So if I was closer to those time zones, I think I'd be able to do the supercar more. But I think that's really interesting that people they want to run the radical, but there's just not enough people doing it. If 73 people started running the radical, you'd have races almost overnight.
Now everybody that's a free car, right? Everybody has that. So, yep, I'm in it. And this one got a lot more votes, 368 votes there total. But yeah, I was a little surprised by the radical. I kind of thought when I first saw the poll, I thought the Lotus might win, either the 79 or 49. But hardly anybody voted that. They were at 5% and 9%. All right, what's next?
Well, a whole nother new thread dedicated to why won't the dynamic track work outside of NPass. So they've narrowed down some things. Coding is not the problem. It's been confirmed that coding is universal. It's applied to the entire sim, not to each series. And the amount of cars in the server is not the problem. A test race was performed with 43 cars and used NIS settings. There was no groove change whatsoever. So from the sounds of things, it's kind of back to the old drawing board. Your guys' thoughts on that?
Well, as you read through this thread further down, there's a lot of discussion that maybe it has to do with qualifying and the fact that NIS is a lone qualifier, and the peak race and the league races and all the test racing Matt Boost has done and all those have all been open qualifying, and the track state is carrying over from qualifying into race, and that's really what people have pinpointed as what is the difference. And so now they're thinking maybe that's the difference there, but there's a lot of interesting thoughts about what is the problem here, and they're obviously working on it. So,
well, that's good to see. The with it being a lone qualifying, I mean that kind of makes sense. I'm not smart enough to know what else it could be, but that one makes the most sense to me.
I personally think the warm-up time, the practice time before the qualifying, in the NIS it's 3 minutes. And,
so short.
And I never get out and practice because by the time I load in and stuff, there's only like a minute and a half left.
Yep.
I'm not even getting up to speed. Why am I going to risk getting incidents? Because those incidents do count. It be in the practice attached to the race. Why am I going to risk getting incidents when I only have a minute? I'm not going to get to practice anything. Where Peak and the league race that he mentioned have a 15 minutes warm up, or the Peak has 15-minute warm up and the league has 15-minute open group qualifying. So in that case, if there was 15 minutes, I would absolutely get out there and run some laps if I had 10 minutes to do it.
You would think that little amount of practice or whatever would really make it that big a difference in how the race plays out as far as multiple grooves and stuff, but apparently that's the difference. But yeah, more to come on this. This is an ongoing issue. We talk about this every week almost now, so it'll be nice if they can figure it out.
Well, if the the extra practice time is the issue, it seems like that would be a pretty simple fix. What do you think the community would take to having, a 10 or 15 minute practice session before you qualify?
Well, there's already that. I mean, when you register for the race at the top of the hour, you can go into the practice before it starts. But the way it works is that practice that's an open practice. It's really not been split yet. The races haven't been split. You'll be with people in that practice that get into different splits than you, and so that that track state isn't carrying over into the race. So I think technically they would have to, at iRacing, they'd have to overcome that, where you could have a proper practice before the race started, where the track state did carry over, but they would have to split them much earlier. So I'm not sure how that would work.
Another possible option is you increase the default track wear when you load in. I think right now it's kind of like it randomly generates the track like between 5 and 30% usage or something. I don't
Right.
know what the exact numbers, but if you increase that to 20 to 50, then maybe you see a difference. If we think that is the problem, if we think that the extra laps of warm up make a difference, then just increase the default track state and see what happens. But I like seeing that Matt Busa, who actually doesn't really have a whole lot to gain, he's in peak, he's getting the benefit of it working right. But he is really wanting to do the extra testing, do the extra debugging to find this for the community. I like seeing the power of the names that are involved in this and the people that want to get it right. And I like that it's a lot more constructive now than it feels like it was a couple months ago.
Yeah, it was all pointing fingers a couple of months ago, and whose fault is this? And yeah, so now it's more like, how do we fix it? But yes, Matt Busa, thank you so much for taking the lead on this. We need some leadership, and that he's certainly showing it. And what better person, because he does run Peak, he does run in the Integrity Racing League, which he's been using them as a test bed to investigate this problem, because they usually have a high number of cars. They usually have multiple grooves, and it's very similar to what happens in Peak. But the other thing is Matt Busa also runs NIS, and he runs NIS, and it's like totally different than the other two experiences. And he wants to know why, and I'm glad he does, because I'd like NIS to have multiple grooves too. All right, next up, Season 4 schedule has been announced. And they posted it as a PDF in the forums. The highlights include there's now an advanced Rookie Dirt Legend Series that runs at USA and Linear Dirt configurations. There is a new Dirt Car UMP Modified Series. Linear Dirt has been added to all the Dirt Racing series. And the Ferrari 488 GT3 card is added to the IMSA and Blank Paint. And what's next?
Next up, Alex Gustafson posted about the Season 4 release. That's going to be on Wednesday, September 6th. This is a pretty normal schedule for downtime and the overlap sessions prevented. So just the Season 4 patch schedule, Wednesday, September 6th, starting at 8 a.m. Eastern.
That's next week, and that's week 13.
He mentioned this was bumped a day because of Labor Day on Monday. Normally they would do this on Tuesday. So the update is actually scheduled for Wednesday due to the holiday.
So the update comes out the day of the NIS race. Great. Yeah, that'll work out good. It usually does.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
Right. All right, next up was another poll in the forums, this time by Susan from iRacing. She asked, hey, would you rather use live chat or telephone for support with iRacing? And 236 people voted live chat, over 14% on telephone. What do you guys think?
Most of the time, I would have to say telephone and get rid of all the menus with the button pushing and just give me someone to talk to. But for this kind of thing, live would definitely side with the majority here and go with live chat. I think it's just it would work so much easier and more simpler for me anyhow.
Yeah, I've never had to call into support or anything, so I don't know which I would prefer. I guess if I had to choose, I'd probably pick live chat, but I would think that telephone might be more effective though, and you'd get to the point quicker probably than trying to type back and forth to each other.
I say we just load up an open practice session and talk via iRacing voice chat. Best of both worlds. And then they have an excuse to race while they're working.
Well, if you're calling support, you might not be able to get into the race session, so.
Don't burst my balloon, Mike.
Okay, Tony, what's next?
Well, anybody hoping for that Knoxville build, you're gonna have to wait till December. Steve Myers just posted that they're not gonna have it ready in time, but for the December build, should be there.
Yeah, it's not going to make it next week, guys. Knoxville will not make it. Been confirmed. And it's one of those things. Maybe they shouldn't have announced it before, because people get their hopes up. We talked about this earlier about when they announced content, and now, they didn't get it done in time, so it's going to be delayed 3 months.
Yeah, but iRacing isn't the only ones that do that. Countless, games in the console area, PC programs, they all do it. You got to get the get the momentum going for it, get people excited. I'm sure they tried as hard as they possibly could to get it released, but hey, if it ain't perfect, don't release it. Just let's wait. Let's have it the right way the first time.
All right, let's jump into hardware topics. We have one this week. The VR5 is one of the most impressive racing simulators for sale in Great Britain. So if you're in Europe, check out this website, exsim.co.uk. EXSIM. And it's called the VR5 Motion Racing Simulator. It's meant to use with virtual reality goggles. The way it looks is it's about a 6-inch high black platform with 4 shock absorbers. They look like literal shocks with that come right out of a car. One on each corner of this little cockpit kind of thing. It's almost like an enclosed cockpit around. It looks like an IndyCar tub is what it looks like, a tub that contains your legs with your pedals and all that, and there's a seat. And this thing is like free floating on the 4 springs. So you got an up and down movement. You got your back end sliding back and forth movement. Like a traction loss. You got left to right, angle, tilt left to right. Really a kind of 360 kind of feel as far as motion goes. Really slick looking. I have no idea what it cost.
I'd be afraid to see the cost of it, but really nice looking rig. And if you go down, they got a little bit of a motion graphic going on to show you the movement and stuff, and it just looks so smooth. I mean, I'm sure once you get racing and stuff, it's gonna throw you around like a rag doll, but it looks really well put together and really well built.
Yeah. It's expensive when they don't publish a price on their website.
Yeah. Second mortgage time, I think, maybe.
Yeah, pretty cool. I saw that and I'm like, wow, that looks really nice. It looks good too, and it's quite different than any kind of motion rig I've seen. Where the tub, as I call it, the IndyCar tub, is literally free floating. I mean, it's up on the springs off of the ground, so it does have some up and down movement that can happen.
I've seen some other ones that are similar to this, but the way these shocks can pivot, I don't know if I saw that on those other models, but really cool nonetheless.
Yeah, like the Sim Experience one that like has shocks as well, but they're like moving the seat, not like an entire tub. And they're not moving it up and down. They're kind of shaking it, tilting it left, right. And there is some traction loss where it will shift to the left or right, but there isn't an option for up, down, or tilt, I think. So, all right, what's next? Next is Chase. Okay, so now we're talking real iRacers in the real world, or real racing, real racers in the iRacing world. It's kind of the crossover section. But anyway, this time a video by Chase Briscoe. Well, a video of Chase Briscoe. It's an interview, and it explains basically how iRacing helped him get into NASCAR. And he drives for Brad Keselowski in the truck series right now, and I think he had an Xfinity start recently. Did quite well, if I recall. And pretty neat little video. This was published by Andrew Curlin the other day. He's the guy who interviewed him.
We keep seeing this more and more. It's almost like not as surprising as it used to be.
Well, it's almost like you almost count on it. If they're an upcoming driver, they're already involved in iRacing, Now, at the end of the video, it actually shows a picture of his racing rig, Chase Briscoe's personal racing rig in his house. Not a bad looking setup, and he actually has motion on it too. You can see the shock absorbers on the back of the seat. It looks like he's got a real racing seat too, with the wraparound around the shoulders and head.
Yeah, it's a top class rig there, right there.
All right, what's next?
Well, your pal Ty Majeski looks like he's won another race, and with another team, the Kelly Byers team. This guy's just smoking it. Man, every picture I see, he's got a checker flag in the middle of the picture. This is awesome.
The guy wins everything. It's incredible.
How long till we see him, with the big boys somewhere in the top 3?
Well, I think it's about sponsorship. If Roush is no fool. Jack Roush will promote this kid quick, I'm sure, but he's got to have sponsorship package to go with it, or it ain't going to happen. Just like, NASCAR is in a real bind with this sponsorship crap. It's gotten to a point where you have to have it. It's not like you can get hired, just based on talent.
It almost makes you wonder what you have to do to get sponsorship. He's won, I want to say, like 20 races this year in all sorts of different kind of cars. He's got ARCA wins. He's got wins here at the Dells Raceway, just all sorts of different races, all sorts of different kind of cars, dirt, pavement, and he's winning everything. What does it take?
Now, interestingly, this week when I was messing around in Hosted, I'm looking, at the Hosted page, and guess what? I see Ty Majeski's name. He was hosting up I think it was a late model race, and there were a lot of people in there. It was full when I saw it, or I was going to try to jump in, but I actually clicked on his name to look at his iRacing profile because I hadn't seen it for a while. And yeah, he's got above 10,000 iRating, and you go down to his last 10 races, on your profile, and you look at the column that says qualifying and then race result, ones and ones on down every row of the 10 races. He qualified first and he finished first in every race in his last 10 races. All of them some kind of a late model or super late model or something like that. So he wins everything in iRacing too. It's not just real life, and he still does it. It's crazy. All right, next up is a topic about Bradley Philpott. Now, Bradley is in the VLN Nürburgring series, as they call it. About Bradley, and it's basically a blog that talks about the virtual path to real world success. And he talks about how he uses iRacing to basically train for his real racing. He says it gives you muscle memory, it teaches you fitness, concentration, and confidence. They actually have a video at the end that shows him doing a lap, a qualifying lap on iRacing. But pretty cool. Another example of a real world driver using iRacing as a tool. He also twittered up. He actually did a Twitter response to the article that posted. And he said, hey, you want some more evidence of how sim racing really helps your fitness? Here's my heart rate trace from today. You tell me where the race was. And he put up a little graph where he had a heart rate monitor on apparently throughout the day. And you can see, between a certain period of time where his heart rate spiked way up high for a period of time. And that was when he was iRacing. So I never thought of it. Do you guys think we're actually burning fat and whatnot? And it's fitness to do iRacing?
I definitely get sweating when I race, and that's all nerves. I mean, my computer doesn't run any hotter. I got a fan blowing right on me, but when I definitely feel the sweat coming on, I feel the kind of the blood pumping, the adrenaline getting you going. I feel that difference. I guarantee you I'm probably not burning fat, but that's because I'm fat. I definitely feel that. I don't think of it as like a normal thing of fitness, but I can see it helping just that kind of intensity, and that when it's on his heart rate monitor, that's over looks like a 4-hour period that he went from an average of about 60 to an average of about 100. So it's pretty significant for him.
I'm kind of sitting in the same boat as Jason there. I'll get sweating, and I got the fan blowing and everything else. But I don't notice my heart rate going up. Now, if I manage to take the lead, the adrenaline will start surging and it'll get my heart pumping a little bit. But other than that, I don't really know. I don't notice it.
Yeah, it makes me want to check my Apple iWatch after I do a race and see if I can see the same thing. I never thought about looking at it. I think I'll try that. Because the Apple Watch thing has a heart rate monitor on it, so I can pull up on my phone my heart rate stuff. I don't know if it'll show me a graph like that, but I'm going to look at it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, my wife has one of those Fitbits she wears when she works out, and actually she wears it all the time, so maybe I'll have to snag it from her for half an hour, and see if it does anything on my end.
Yeah, because it's hard to tell when you're in the moment, what's going on with your body, but... Okay, next, final topic, I'll take it. Final topic tonight is newly announced. iRacing.com has announced the NASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational Series, which actually kicks off tonight in about 10 minutes from now, actually. It's going to run before the Peak Series, and it's going to include drivers such as Christopher Bell, Harrison Burton, Noah Gragson, Todd Gilliland, Blake Koch, Ryan Truex, Parker Kligerman, Ben Kennedy, Ryan Preece, Ty Majeski, Chase Briscoe, as well as special guests from the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series and other premier racing leagues from around the world. And boy, this is pretty cool. We've seen these kind of events before, and now they got an actual series going here. starts tonight. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's kind of exciting, actually. In fact, I'm right now. You're able to log in through iRacing Live, and I'm guessing a lot of other people have the same idea as me because I'm having a hard time having it load in.
Well, and part of the reason is NASCAR is actively promoting this. Right before we went on the air tonight, I saw a couple links by NASCAR on their Facebook page and on their Twitter, as well as they put up on their website at NASCAR.com this story about this series, trying to drive some views, obviously. So pretty cool. There's a couple quotes here about it. I'm going to read a quote here from Tony Gardner, who's the president of iRacing. He said in an official release, "We could not be more excited. NASCAR is a tremendous partner, and the various NASCAR official series on iRacing are extremely popular. Adding this series to our esports lineup with real-world professionals is thrilling and highlights the continued growth of sim racing." Also quoted was Blake Davidson, NASCAR Vice President of Licensing and Consumer Products. He says, "Through our long-term partnership with iRacing.com, NASCAR has been at the forefront of competitive gaming for years. The NASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational will further connect our drivers to the growing fan base of esports in an engaging and authentic way."
Let me overanalyze something. Have we heard Tony Gardner call it esports before?
That's new, yeah.
And Blake Davidson has also mentioned it as an esport. So maybe there's a new direction.
Well, I think you can call it that, and that's certainly a buzzword now to try to get involved in esports. All the different sports out there are trying to, get their niche, and this is maybe NASCAR's way of getting involved. But boy, it's going to be a good race with that lineup I stated. I mean, Ryan Preece, he's a recent winner from the Xfinity. Ty Majeski, we talk about him all the time. I don't think anybody's going to. I think Ty is definitely the favorite. I don't see how you could not put Ty Majeski as the favorite in these races. I also like the fact that they left it open for a special guest from the Cup Series to be announced later. So maybe we'll see Denny Hamlin come and race with us, or who else might come?
Kyle Larson's, he's pretty popular on the service.
Yeah.
You've had Tony Stewart on. You've had Dale Jr. on. You've had Kyle Busch on.
Yeah, it'd be awesome to see Kyle Busch doing it. I don't know that Kyle races iRacing, but I know the Toyota simulator, but
I know a few of them have they do have accounts, but it looks like they've never used them. One in particular was Danica Patrick. I know she's got an account, but I don't think she's ever run a race.
Right.
Well, so NASCAR and iRacing have looks like they've done a pretty darn good job. They've got a lot of attention to this because the latest time I tried to log in and start checking out the stream, it's completely crashed. So that may not be good, but yeah, lots of people trying to get on anyway.
All right. Well, hopefully they'll get it fixed. This is a great opportunity to get some eyeballs on iRacing anyway. Let's jump into final thoughts. Tony Groves. I just called you Tony Gardner. Tony Groves,
Big
what do you
promotion.
got?
Yeah, I don't even know if I could fit into his slippers. My final thoughts are, good luck, guys, at Darlington. Hopefully the stripe doesn't take out your whole car. I'll be cheering you guys on, and I'm really, really looking forward to get back into it at Richmond.
Yep. Richmond is start of the postseason, really. It's like summer's over, you know. I think we're at the end of summer. It kind of feels like it. All right, Jason Daniels, final thoughts.
Couple things real quick. The podcast is back on YouTube. We did last week. We're doing this week. This will be going live just shortly after we finish recording. Did a couple weeks ago as a test. We're going to keep video recording the podcast. All the kind of videos and forum threads that go along with everything we were talking about. You can watch us live on Tuesday nights. We usually get started about 7 Eastern. So we may be live streaming that in the near future, but YouTube for now, and then we get that posted Tuesday night. As far as me for the NIS, my last race was Bristol. Great 4th place finish. I really want to keep that momentum. We have some short tracks in about the next 5 weeks, a lot of short tracks. Darlington, Richmond, we got Dover, we got New Hampshire. We do have Chicagoland and Charlotte mixed in as well, but I never thought of myself to possibly be a kind of a short track specialist. But with a 4th at Bristol, I'm at least considering that for now. Let's see if I can keep that consistency and keep that going as we go through the short tracks here.
Now, don't get cocky now.
You stop it. I'm not getting cocky. You got to have an amount of confidence when you're doing this. It's not cocky. If I win 4 in a row, then I'll tell you to shut up. But
okay, so
it was one race. I acknowledge it was one race. Maybe it was a fluke, maybe not. But I got to use the confidence from that race. I got to keep that going.
Yep. All right. My final thoughts is just that confidence. I had a win. Yes, it was Pickup Cup, but it was still a win. I still yelled out in my house, yes, I can't believe I won, you know, and my family hears me from the other room, and they heard that. They don't hear it very often. I used to win, it seems like, more often than I do these days, but it was nice to get a win. It gives you confidence. It makes you remember why you're doing this when you're able to take the checkered flag and do the donuts at the end and post a video on Facebook and share it with your friends. And it was fun, and I'm glad to get a win. And I want everyone to remember why we're doing this. We're out there to win, guys. It's competitive. So go for the win and race stuff that you can win. You know, I race NASCAR iRacing Series in a 2nd or 3rd split typically, and that's really hard to win. So I have to step back and go to these lesser series to actually be competitive sometimes. And it was fun, so I'm glad to do it. Other final thought is, you know, don't forget about the podcast is everywhere that a podcast can be found. If there's a place I don't have it, please let me know, and I will put it there. But we're on Stitcher, we're on SoundCloud, we're on iTunes, we're on Spreaker, we're on Podbean, we're on Google Play. So whatever floats your boat, you can find it out there. SoundCloud is actually where the podcast is hosted. So that's the most direct way. But the easiest way, I think, is if you have an iPhone, is iTunes. If you have Android, go to Google Play and search iRacers Lounge. And with that, we'll see you later. Thank you for listening to the iRacers Lounge podcast. Make sure to go subscribe to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, or Google Play, Facebook, and Twitter. See you on the track.